Okay, Wednesday night, March 13th, 2013. Pesach is quickly approaching us. It's only about a week and a half till Pesach. And didn't have much chance to prepare. We're going to read something about Haroset from Hod Yosef Hai. Hod Yosef Hai, we've read from it in the past. It's a compilation of halachot of Chacham Yosef Mesas from his Mayim Hayim and Osara Michtabim, which is the top portion, and then the bottom portion is Rabbi Zechariah Zarmati, who's writing commentary on it. Sometimes it gets interesting. Let's hope this is. So page 135. أفشى الدبار إنه معكب نهجوا لعصود حروست بتبوحيم تئنيم إجوزيم رمونيم وشكيديم كيفيش نماز بشير الشريم. Because even though, this is not, mandatory practice, okay, the general custom, or just it's customary, to make haroset from apples, figs, walnuts, pomegranates, almonds, as they are alluded to in Shira Shirim. And we'll get to that. ومعاربين بهم تبلين كيغون كنمون وزنجبيل. And we mix into it spices like cinnamon and ginger. Zecher letebe. Okay, in memory of the straw. Straw. S-T-R-A-W. وأنو موسيفيم عود سموكيم وتماريم. And we also add to that raisins and dates. ولقحيم أوتا وخدشيم أوتا ومغبلين. And we take it and we smash it and we grind it and we, mix it right in. وبليل بيسح مركخين أوتو بمعات ياين شيء نوح لتيبول. And on the night of Pesach, we soften it up a bit by adding a little bit of wine, so it will be much smoother and easier for dipping purposes. This is what he wrote. Let's go back to his sources. So he's starting off, first source, before we actually started, with Osara Michtabim. A book of letters, basically, that Rabbi Yosef Mesas wrote to many people on any topic under the sun. Footnote 2, regarding the fruits that are alluded to in Shira Shirim.
Sorry.
Ubmuram.
What do I have to do with straw again?
The straw was adding the spices that you're adding, the cinnamon and the ginger. They're like strandish, so they look like straw. Oh, that's what you're saying. Right, right, because when they're making they have to gather their own straw to make the bricks, etc. Okay. So it's called Muram. بموشي إسرد اشتاق وموران كتب بشيم الطور والتوسفات اتمتكون على بي شير شريم بخول بيرو شنمشلو بهم إسرائيل ويعسي أوتو عاب زيخل الطيط ونطنين بو معد حومس أو يين أدوم زيخل الدام بخول بيرو شبشير شريم توبيم تبو حيم تأنيم إيجوزيم رمونيم شكيدين وقنمون وزنجبيل دومي لتابن شيو مقبلين بو الطيط. So Muram is basically quoting the Tur and the Tosafot, and that it's good to use any and all fruits that Bnei Yisrael is compared to, and make it nice and thick, like the mud. Okay, and you add either some vinegar or some red wine in remembrance of the blood. Okay, the blood of the people that was, obviously dripping from them as they were being beaten, etc. And all the fruits that are mentioned in Shira Shirim are good fruits to use. And we mentioned what they are. Done. So that's how he's bringing down what fruits to use. Now let's get into a lengthier point. Last footnote, number 3. Regarding the preparation of haroset and how it's made. رأيت ذهبي بدرخ كسور سيكون دعت حخامين وزخرانات البرخاء على البسيس الشعور شنتاتي زي شنيم ربوت بعنيان أوفان عصيات حروست بشورش هم مزفا مدبريهم. So that it's important to really get into what our Hachamim have written about making the haroset, and this is based upon a lesson that I gave a number of years back regarding the Haroset and the source of the missvah from their words. So I'm going to start opening up the sugya. أخيرا إيتا بمشنا بسحيم. هبي ولفنا مطبيل بحزيرت عادش مجيل بربيرت هبات. هبي ولفنا مصاف حزيرت في حروست وشيت بشرين أفعل بي شيئين حروست مزفا بلا بن صدوق أمير مزفا. Okay, so he opens up based upon Mishnah and Pesachim, mentions the Haroset, and then closes off whether the Hachamim thinking it's not a missvah, and Bilazar ben Sadok saying it is a missvah. Not important. Kalumar, لدعت هناقم هبي وحروست لفناف أفعل بي شئنا بعد شم missvah. Right? The Mishnah was very clear, the Hachamim, that they brought Haroset in front of him even though it's not a missvah. It's basically there just to lessen, what do you call it? To dull the sharp taste of the maror. Shehu mazik leguf, because it's too harmful to the body. Uldat bi de'ayze bi sadok af tibul baharoset mizvahi mishum zechel atit. No, Bid'Aizah bin Sadok says even the dipping into the Haroset is missvah because it is a remembrance of the mud, of the, it's not even mud, it's more mortar. Yeah, thank you. Okay, that that the Jews were working with in Misraim. Ba'alpi Pirush Harambam Bedas Bid'Aizah حياب آدم لبريق أشي قديشانو بمزفوتها بسيفان وعال أخيلات حروست.
We don't say that.
Biram in halakha came. It's according to the Pirush of the Rambam, but halakha is not as such. Now,
so it's saying Harambam says that's the beracha?
Harambam in his Pirush says that. Pirush of the Mishnah.
The halakha according to Rabbi Eliezer.
Right.
Oh, I see.
Right.
That would be the halakha. But he says, so he tells you that that's not how we're halakha. That's not our halakha.
Right. Now,
the Harambam saying it's not our.
Harambam is Harambam wrote a Pirush on the Mishnayot. This is the Mishnah.
Right.
So in his Pirush on the Mishnayot, say based upon the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, that a person is obligated to make a beracha and she could share mizvah v'sivar alcha haroset. But this is not the halakha. V'harab gaon b'Yosef Kafah. ببيروش مشنايوت لرمبام كتاب بشم هلاف مجيد تعم شيئين مبرخيم عليها مشوم شهي ديرخ تبول. The only reason we're not making a beracha because it's a derech tibul. Okay? Because it's only a dipping. It's a secondary thing. The main thing is what you're eating, not what you dipped into. You're having chips and salsa. The chips are the main thing, not the salsa. Okay? You're having bread or crackers, whatever, and hummus. You're not making beracha on hummus. You're making beracha, on whatever you're dipping, that main item. Okay, your Frito, your Lay's, whatever you're having. That is your main item, not what you dip into. And anything that is secondary to something else, you make the beracha on the primary item and not the secondary. كلشون زي بديو كتاب عطير روشينو خرج بيس بمامار حميس. And exactly the same thing that B. Yosef Kafah wrote in the name of the Rabbi Magid, the Rashbis also wrote. Rabbi Sha'an ben Semah. Beha Gemara Hakshata. Now the Gemara of course has a question. Why lo mizvah mishum maitei haroset? Right? If it's not a mizvah, why you need the haroset? Why are you even bringing it? أمار بأمي مشون كباء أمار بأسي كباء ده حسا حما كباء ده حما كرتي وبيروش الدباري ممكن tell you now. Give me a pirush over here. وبيروش الدباري شاف لدعت تناقما. Okay, even according to the opinion of the Tanakama, she'en hayyub ba'haros illa mishum kappa. Now what is kappa? Okay, uperesh rashi. She's seraf a hazeret kasher. Okay, the burning of the hazeret It's very, very hard. V'yesh bo eris, and it has a sting to it. Okay? Ve'omnam mi she'achal hazeret ve'hala b'shvil oto kavah yochal sinon ve'irapeh. And anybody who got basically sick from eating the hazeret because it's so sharp and so bitter, and he basically got ill from it, okay, because of this kafah, okay, what does he do to treat himself so he can heal? He eats radish. But this is only one perush to this word kafah, okay, as we're going to explain. He says, so what is kafah? We still don't know what it is. Okay, so basically, according to this first reasoning, based upon this commentary, this understanding of Rashi of the word kafah, the Haroset is there to dull it, like Marky translated before. Okay, because it's very sharp, it's very bitter. Now we know our Hazeret
today is...
Okay, obviously everything's been, reworked in the fields nowadays, so romaine lettuce doesn't have a bitterness that it had 50 years ago even. Once in a while you'll pick up an organic one and it has much more of a bitter taste to it. I don't know if you ever noticed it. Especially if you get, to the stalk ends that are closer to when you go to the head. You'll get, and it'll even juice out a little bit of that milky white, bitter juices. But even that, it's not so bitter. It has a little bit of a tang to it, if you will.
And
so what's the meaning of kafah?
Say it.
Hazeret from whenever this was written 1,000 years ago, whatever, is referring to romaine lettuce?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, based upon Geonim and Rishonim. Yeah.
Okay.
I have no reason not to believe so. Marky, what do you think?
What was the question?
If Hazeret refers to the romaine lettuce.
Yeah.
Do you believe that's what they're referring to over here? Or maybe they're referring to something else?
No, there's definitely something spicier. I always wondered if I feel like we're missing out on the Haggadah, on this element of the Manu and Hazeret. Maybe we should get something spicier. I mean, it's not like a lot of us are foreign or not foreign to spice.
What's wrong with the Hazeret?
One second, but we're not looking...
Not bitter enough.
We're not looking for something spicy. It needs to be something bitter.
Bitter. Something has a... But here it's something that's...
Listen,
so bitter.
Taste that great,
very bitter that it's...
Hazeret doesn't taste that great, does it? It is kind of bitter.
You think so?
Hazeret?
Romaine lettuce?
Romaine
bitter?
lettuce? Not bitter.
No, not at all. I wear it every day. I eat it every day.
I don't think it's bitter.
I mean, you may like iceberg lettuce better, but
no,
it's not so. It's become. It's a little more bitter. I remember when we were kids, we had iceberg lettuce. If you ever had romaine lettuce, it was a little bit more bitter. Yeah, but it's still not to the extent that the Gemara ever talks about.
But romaine lettuce of Pesach 1970 and romaine lettuce of Pesach 2010 don't have the same taste.
I'll tell you the bitter part of it. The bitter part of it is that you paid double the price this week. It's bitter to you.
Go to Costco and you don't.
So just to pose the question, should we be quote unquote mahmir to try to buy a more bitter leaf? Because there are more bitter leaves out there. Arugula is a little more bitter.
Would call it bitter?
Arugula?
I wouldn't call it bitter.
You don't think it's bitter?
No.
It's more than romaine lettuce.
Not bitter. Absolutely not.
Well,
it might be
there
sharper.
Are leaves that are sharper.
Sharp. But on the flip side, regarding the statement that Rabbi Eliezer, that he's saying that Haroset is a missvah, so the Gemara has a different question. My missvah? What's the missvah? Rabbi Levi Omer zecher tapuach. You heard that? Rabbi Levi Omer says, remembrance of the apple.
What apple?
What apple? There you go.
What holiday?
Rabbi Yohanan Omer zecher tit. Rabbi Yohanan says, no, in remembrance of the mortar. Okay? Amar Abaye Hilkach Amar Abaye Hilkach Sarich לכהוויה ושריך לסמוכה לכהווה זכר התפוח ושריך לסמוכה זכר הטיט. So Abaye said, therefore we have to make it לכהוויה ושריך לסמוכה לכהוויה זכר התפוח ושריך לסמוכה זכר הטיט. So the לכהוויה is that you have to make it, you have to basically chop it up. And he's saying, Abaye, this is in remembrance of the tapuah. But you have to also, samuche, you have to make it thickish in remembrance of the teeth. Well, obviously, they're not clarifying anything, and hopefully going forward we'll clarify. וכן קיימת ברייתא כדברי רבי יוחנן האומרת תבלין זכר לטבן חרוסת זכר לטיט. Okay, there's a ברייתא that says תבלין, the spice, in remembrance of the straw. חרוסת, in remembrance of the teeth. אמר רבי אליעזר ברבי סדוק כך היו אומרים תגרי חרך שבירושלים בואו ותאכלו לכם תבלין למזבח. So, but yeah, I remember, these were the merchants in Yerushalayim. They would say, come and get for yourself the tablin, the spice that you need for the missvah. So if they're saying spices for the missvah, Haroset is obviously a missvah. Ubi'ur hadebarim keperush Rashi. Explanation of what we read based upon Rashi. Missvah hi zecher etapuach shehayu yoldot benehen sham. Now obviously this tapuach must be something else, not an apple. Okay? Must be like a birthing stone or something. That's where they would give birth to their children. Without any sort of sorrow. So what is this tapuach that we're talking about Shir Shirim? Okay, so it must be something else. That's what he's trying to tell us over here.
Daf Yomi got it wrong.
What
did you say?
Because of the apple trees.
He calls it apple trees, so maybe they're apple trees. Maybe that's what they are, apple trees. They were doing it on the apple trees. It could be too.
What they would get? They were sprouting.
In other words, to like cheer you up, to resurrect you, to
waken you up, right? All day, right? Under the apple tree.
So they were doing. You think of the cherry tree?
Yeah, the cherry tree.
I thought you were thinking of the poison apple.
Sour childhood. Okay. So it must have been a thing, obviously, that maybe it's a well-known midrash or a perush that the woman would give birth under apple trees.
Okay.
לכן צריך לסמוכה. זאת אומרת להטיל ולכתוש בו הרבה כדי שיהיה עב. You have to really work at it so it could be thick. וכן צריך גם לכהויה קרא להטיל בו תפוחים יין. Now why? You have to basically you're breaking that into an applesauce type texture so you could mix the wine into it. ובכלל דבר שיש בו חמסמסות, that has some sort of acidity to it.
Chamus.
Yeah. ומה שאמרו בשם רבי יוחנן תבלין זכר לטבן אלו ירקות שמטרידים בחרוסת והחרוסת עצמה קודשים בו הדק זכר לטיט. These tablin don't necessarily have to be spices. They could be vegetables that they would put sticking out of it, whereas the haroset was broke down into a paste, but they had pieces of things sticking out of it. So you could, let's say, put strands of celery, what have
right.
inside. It could also look like straw, sticking out.
So to make it more visually.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
והתוספות כתבו שבירושלמי איתה שיש עושים זכר לדם ומשום כך טיבול בחרוסת נקרא דבר שטיבולו במשקה. And the Tosafot wrote rather in the Yerushalmi they learned that there were people that would make it in remembrance of the dam, remembrance of the blood, and because of that dipping into the haroset is considered like dipping into a liquid. When you dip into liquid, you have to wash. Okay, that's halacha, right? If you're dipping anything into a liquid to eat it, you have to wash your hands. So since they're making it, zecher ladam, and dam is a liquid, so now you would have to wash for that. So this is like zecher. This is also like dipping into a liquid, and you have to wash for it.
Sounds ridiculous.
Sounds ridiculous, but think, we dip our first dip in vinegar or salt water, all right, or lemon juice for the Iraqis, okay?
Red lemon juice?
Lemon juice.
Yeah, Iraqis dip in lemon juice, the
It's
first
really
dip.
bitter.
No, the first dip, you know.
First, right, yeah.
The kabas.
Kabas.
Syrians
Okay.
dip in salt water,
water.
Egyptians dip in vinegar, and Baghdadians dip in lemon juice.
Okay.
And not straight lemon juice, watered down lemon juice.
It's backdated.
Not powerful, I'm telling you, it's watered
Can't
down.
go for the real lemon juice, huh?
No, you're not allowed because it's a juice, then it's not a liquid. Whatever. But according to Rambam and according to the Geonim and all them, and what the Yemenites still do till today, the first dipping is in Haroset.
Not the salt water.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
And they wash for that?
So, but,
Yeah.
and do they dip in any type of juice?
No.
Vinegar or
They
salt?
dip. No.
Nothing. There isn't.
There isn't. Doesn't exist.
Wow.
And theirs is a paste? Their charoset is a paste?
The Yemenites, I don't know what their Haroset looks like. I can't tell you. Go on your phone and find out. Yemenite Haroset, what it looks like.
Good idea.
Want to pause?
You can continue.
تشوبات الجئونيم كاتبوا لعصوت حروسة ببيروت شرين ما لكنيسة إسرائيل بشيل شريم. In the Teshuvot of the Geonim, they also wrote to make the Haroset with fruits that are compared to Israel. Specifically the ones in Shira Shirim. Shini Iman, تحت التبوح عراتيخا كفيلة هريمون حتى إنا حنتفجها أماتي عذاب التمار يلقيات إيجوز يراتي بخين شكيديم على شم ششاقال هكادوش باروخو على قيس ودعات ربيامي بدعات نقماها وميشا حروسة إلى مزفاء إلا مشون كبا بيريش السفر عروق بشيمها راب أي جاون شكبا هو من شون كيبوي يقول نفيحا بروح شأوحيز بمعايم منهم ما أخلوت النكرا كبا من بني من البيحت بيمكن حروسة هو سام شتوريت متبدأ وتاها هو بخليه بختاب عوجه دبريم إلو إن بفارشة. Okay, let me stop for a second and explain because David's going to like this. Okay, according to this Perush of the Sefer Aruch, B'Shem Harab Igaon or Aigaon. I've never seen Gaon with that name. I'm not familiar with him. She Kappa comes from the Shon Kipui. Kipui is like the modern word for frozen. Okay, to solidify in this case. Okay, Kigon Nifiha Verua Shohiz Ma'im, like a blast of wind that holds your intestines. Okay, from any other foods. Basically, it bloats you. In that case, the haroset is like a poison. Okay, like you were just saying a second ago. That the wind gets stuck in it and it gets into you and like it just blows you up. But he also wrote, we shouldn't even bother trying to explain these things. كيجون لاحش شئين لو بيروش, like lahash in the sense that if something's wrong with somebody, they go milahashim alav, they whisper on the guy. You can't really exactly translate this word lahash in this sense, okay? But you get the basic idea of what's going on. Like they're doing some sort of voodoo over there, they're whispering sayings over the guy, okay? But that's not translation of lahash. Lahash just means to be silent. שאין לו פירוש. ברם, רבי גרשום פירש משום כפה למקטל ארס שבירקות. Okay, kapa is basically you're diminishing the poison that is in the vegetables. ורבי יחיאל פירש כפה תולעת בירקות. ודאי שתמות על ידי החומס. No, basically you have to have some sort of vinegariness to the haroset, and that haroset, what do you call it, will kill off any sort of bugs that are on the vegetable that you're putting into it. Okay? Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the source though for that first dipping in the salt water, vinegar, etc., whatever. Nice. Okay, next.
To get rid of the bugs?
Yeah, that's what many people say. That it's only to get rid of bugs, kill them off, so you could eat it.
Never heard of washing?
It didn't have soap.
You have to understand. Go back to a time where insect infestation in produce was very, very common. Clear running water, not exactly easy to come by. Basically, people killed things off with harsher chemicals. Okay, but their chemical was vinegar. Vinegar was, great astringent, in a sense. And people didn't want to waste, their hard-earned, ada they were making. So the wine that went bad, they now had vinegar. Rabbi Gershon, basically to diminish the poison that is in the vegetable.
That's the cafe?
Yeah.
To clean it out.
And Rabbi Yehiel says to kill the bugs that are on the vegetable. Okay. Now, the Harambam, Pasak. Harambam Echot Halabes Musa. Pasak Kiribi Le'azeb ben Rabbi Sadok HaOmer Haroset missvah וזאת כיוון דשקלו אמוראי הליבה. Why does the Rambam consider a missvah? Because the Amoraim actually spent time discussing it. Obviously, if it's something that they spent the time on, then it must be a missvah. וזה לשון הרמב"ם. Let's see exactly what Rambam says. החרוסת מזווה מדברי סופרים. זה מזווה מדברי סופרים. זה חלטית. שהיו עובדים בו במצרים. וחסד עושים אותה, הרמב"ם שלנו יהיה, how do you make חרוסת? לוקחים תמרים, או גרוגרות, או סימוקים, וכיוצא בהם. You take any of these things. ודורסים אותם. Okay? You crush them, you pound them. ונותנים לתוכן חומס, and you add vinegar to it. متبلين אותם, you keep working it. متبلين אותם بتبلين. Okay, and then you're going to add spices. كموطيت, الطبن. Okay, the same way when you have the mortar, it has strands of straw in it. ومبيئين אותם على شحان بليلي pesach. And that's what you bring to the table on the night of Pesach. So basically it is one of these three things, timarim or girogrot or simukim, dates or girogrot, from what I know, is a different type of date, or raisins, and you're mixing it with vinegar, and then you're going to add some spice to it. Done. Umuram ka'amur katav sheharoset ya'aseh ab zechlatit. Umuram also said it has to be thick, like the mortar. V'harkach notim bo me'at homis or yain, then you add a little vinegar or wine, yain adom rather, or red wine, zechel adam. V'she'osim ota miperot shenimshilu behem Yisrael, and make it out of fruit that Bnei Yisrael was compared to, as we read earlier. ובדרך הדירוש אוסיף גם מה שכתב המהרשה במקום. And for the sake of dirush, I'm going to add what the Maharsha said. בשעת אכילת מרור יזכור וימררו את חייהם בעבודה קשה בחומר ובלבנים, etc. שהיא עבודת הטיט. Right? So when you eat it, you have to remember that. וזכר התבן שהוסיפו בעבודתם. And remembrance of the straw that they had to, that was added to their, to their daily chores that they had to go out and gather. ותבן לא ינתן לכם. Right? He didn't want to give them. ויפו סעם וכו'. מן העזר דקאמה זכר התפוח לפי המדרש שכתבו התוספות. And in remembrance of the tapuach, like the Midrash says, that the Tosafot mentioned. יש לעשות חרוסת גם בשאר הפירות של מול ישראל בשביל השירים. And also use the other fruit. Keeps coming back to the same thing. וראיתי שמרן הרב הגאון הראיה קוק כתב בהלכותיו על הגדה של פסח שלוקחים. So he says, I saw what Rabbi Abraham Ishaq Kook wrote in his halachot of Haggadah shel Pesach. שלוקחים מרור בשיעור כזית. Take מרור שיעור of כזית. ומטבלים אותו או בחרוסת. And you dip it in the חרוסת. מבלי להשאותו בתוכה. Without letting it remain there. You just dip it. ומערים אותה מעליו. And you just dip it, pull it out and just, let whatever remainder just fall off and whatever sticks to it, sticks to it. والمربى הפלא דיברים אלה עולים בקנה אחד עם מאן דאמר חרוסת אין המצווה אלא משום כפה. And these words go exactly hand in hand with the explanation that says the haroset is not a missvah, rather it is because of kappa.
Which we said was
Zot omeret, what's the what kappa? Which explanation of kappa?
The frozen?
Zot omeret mishum hatola'at bahazeret, because of the bugs on the hazeret. Sheyesh libattila al yedeh riyah haroset min aliyah. That once the stench of the haroset hits the vegetable, the bugs can't stay there and they're leaving. Which is a little bit different than the way we read it before. וזין נראה שלא כדעת רבי אליעזר בן רבי סדוק האומר מזווה זכר לתפוח שהלכה כמותו בסריך עיון. And obviously this is not exactly what Rabbi Eliezer ben Sadok said, that it is a mizvah zechel tapuach. Okay.
It's going to jump into something else.
What?
You said you have it.
Yeah, it's jumping around.
It's jumping around, so.
Woo! Mexican jumping beans, you know? عطير وشيل حرش بيس بسفرو ما أمر حماس كوتيب بزيد شنو وحروسة إيكا من ده أمر بجمارا شئنو المزفاء إلا مشون كبا بها تلعت هجاديل بحازير ذا وخيل أتو مسوكام. And what does he tell you over there, the Rashbes? The whole reason of, what do you call it, the Haroset is there to rid yourself of these bugs that grow on the hazeret. And anybody who eats those bugs is bringing danger to himself. He's endangering himself. And when that bug that's on the hazeret, special hazeret bug, smells the haroset, he dies. He's quoting. Now, Avi, again, we don't know exactly what bug. We don't know what vegetable.
Right.
We don't know the growing condition. We don't know anything. We're laughing because we live, in a sterile world.
Where everything's clean.
Yeah.
Can I call you? I gotta go. Put my daughter to sleep. But I want to listen. Can I take the sheets?
Take the sheets. Allah.
I'll call you in a minute. I'll listen in.
how does it go?
I'm gonna call her.
Okay, go ahead. Good night.
Are you calling in? No.
Welcome to the Nachum Siegel Show. Well, okay, go ahead.
Haroset is the date mixture with all these other things, right?
Right.
Nuts or that, right? And they're saying that if you dip it into that, the bugs fly off.
The bug dies.
The bug does.
Once.
The bug dies that's in the haroset already?
No. Here's your vegetable. Look.
Okay.
Here's your vegetable. And I'm dipping it into my haroset. The bugs on the hazeret. And once I dip it in the haroset, and the haroset gets onto that vegetable, the stench of the haroset causes the bugs to die.
Where?
Pretty fast. Yes, sir. Hello.
Yeah, sorry.
You didn't waste
the
any
bugs
time.
to die while you're eating,
I'll
in the
just look at the
what's it, getting dipped in the haroset?
Once the haroset is on that piece of vegetable,
Yeah, the bug dies.
the bug dies. Now, does that mean you're allowed to eat dead bugs?
Right.
Do you want to eat dead bugs?
Where is that dead bug?
So,
Underneath the haroset.
but before they said that the reason that that you dipped into the vinegar first, so just vinegar, was to get rid of the bugs. So why?
But different explanations.
I see. Okay. Gotcha.
So many different explanations of this kaffa.
I see. Okay.
And
It's confused.
but according to what we read in Harambam, your haroset must have vinegar in it. It's an active component of haroset. It's the fruit.
Who killed the bug? That vinegar?
Harambam's not telling you it's to kill the blood.
What's it
Harambam's telling you that's how you make haroset.
Those are the
Oh,
ingredients.
those are the ingredients.
The ingredient is fruit and vinegar.
You should try it. Let's do it.
Try it, enjoy yourself. Okay. ושריך לומר שאינו גדל אלא לאחר שנתלש שנים במחובר גדל, אפילו מת עשו משום אל תשקסו. So according to what he's saying over here, that obviously this bug that is on the hazeret is not a bug that grew, that was on the hazeret when the hazeret was growing. It's a bug that happened to, must be liked hazeret, and would come to nibble on the hazeret, once the hazeret was already plucked from the ground. וגם יש לומר שכאשר מריח החרוסת הוא מת, שאין צריך לשכח חזרת בחרוסת. And that means that since once the bug is only sniffing the haroset, it dies. It means you don't have to totally immerse the entire piece of vegetable into the haroset, right? Rather, just once a little bit gets on, the odor just goes up throughout the vegetable, and the bug dies. أباب جمارة أسكينة دمزفاه لهبيع حروست ولا دافكة مشو كبا إلا زيخل تبوح وخين زيخل التيت شايو عصيم بدبنين. But the Gemara though is not telling us this. The Gemara is not telling us that specifically we have the haroset because of kapah, because of killing of bugs. It's telling us for remembering the tapuah and remembering the teeth. Those two things, and those two things only the Gemara is telling us. ومشوم هاخي أمرنا دسريخ لقهوة والسموخة, and this is why we has to have two different textures to it in a sense. شتبوحين حموسيم هم والسموخة زخلتيت, because the tapuhim have a certain acidity to them, and also you could make it in a texture that is similar to the mortar. ונראה לי שצריך לערב בו פירות מתוקים, and it seems to me that you have to mix in sweet fruits. וממחين אותו בחומץ כדי יהיה נאות לטבול, and you have to mix it with the vinegar so it'll be easier to dip into. לסמוכה נאות לטבול. לסמוכה אינו שיהיה עב שהרי משקהו משום הכי בעין ידיים בדבר של משקה. And סמוכה is saying it does not mean it needs to be thick, rather it needs to be mixed well together, because its bottom line is we have to look at it, we have to consider it as a liquid, because we're dipping into it, and dipping requires nitila without a beracha. עוד כתב הרב הגאון ביוסף מסס שטעם שם החרוסת הוא כי כל תערובת פירות ותבלין נקראים בשם זה. So ביוסף מסס was asked, why do we call it haroset? And he's telling you, it's not that this is something special called haroset. This is a general term. Anytime you have a fruit and spice mixture, it is called haroset. ראיתי שגם בספר על מנהגי יהודי גרדיה אשר באלג'יריה. There's a section in Algeria called Jardiya. In the book is called ויקח עמרם. He writes, העיד המחבר. The author writes, אמו הרבני הייתה מהדרת בעשיית חרוסת ביתית. His mother used to glorify in making her own homemade חרוסת. הנקראת בלשונם חלק. Okay, the Algerian, you heard?
Chilek, there's your word.
Chilek. Okay, in this section of Algeria, that's what they call it. The aswiyam mitemarim, and will be made from dates. Kilipat limon, lemon rind. Tapuz hamus, bitter orange. Homis, vinegar. Azbes hadeh, grass from the field. Pilpil adom harif ve'yavish ve'od. Okay, and dried hot pepper and more. והנה יש ברשימה פירות הזו כאלו שאינם מוזכרים כלל וכלל בדברי השיר השירים. And there are things in this haroset of hers that are not mentioned whatsoever in shir hashirim. ולא הקפידו רק בהם. And nobody said, oh, you can't make it like that, it doesn't follow the shir hashirim formula. This is what she did, and she was proud of what she was doing, and this is what she obviously, knew growing up. So this is what we finalize with as the explanation of the sugya. Vedat Hakmei Yisrael, and the opinion of the Hakamim, Ve'aduyot Dila'il, and the testimonies that we mentioned. She'af she'halacha nifseka she'haros mizvahi. And even though, bottom line is, we saw how the mom said that halacha is that Haroset is a missvah. And it's zecher tapuach, mishum pasuk tahat tapuach raticha, and it's in remembrance of the tapuach, as the pasuk says tahat tapuach or raticha. Ve'en mibarchim aleiha, and we do not make beracha on it. Biram, but at the same time, gamit barir shelo batlu kol ta'amim. At the same time, we didn't just brush away and annul and do away with all the other reasonings. فَنَفْكَ مِنَّا لَقَبِّعَ عَصِيَتَا. And the bottom line brings us back to the way it is made. كِتَعَمُو شِلْتَانَا قَمَّا هَأُمِرْ مِشُمْ قَبَّا. Because of what the Tanakh said, because of kappa ulchol pirushav. Every one of the explanations of kappa can work into the way the haroset is, and the way it is processed, and the way it is made, and the way it is seen, and the way it is eaten, and what actions, what qualities it has. ולכן, טוב להמשיך ולנהוג להרבות בכל הפירות המוזכרים בשיר השירים בכלל, ולא רק לתפוח. And therefore it is good to continue with the tradition of including all these different fruits that are mentioned in Shir Shirim, and not only the apple. Well, obviously, we don't make it that way, and he's telling you, you don't have to make it that way, but he sees benefits in that. But obviously, each person is going to do the way they grew up doing. But it's just a very interesting approach, looking at the Sugya and the Gemara, breaking it up in different ways, looking at different explanations for why we have the Haroset, why it's made the way it is, or why it isn't made, in different ways, and what properties it has. And bottom line is, it's a missvah. Missvah med b'rei sofrim, like Rambam says, and even Rambam in Pirush Mishnayot says that according to Bid'ah ben Sadok, it should have a beracha. But since that's not the way the halacha is, we don't make a beracha on it. And another reason we don't make beracha on it is because it's a secondary item. The primary is, we're making ha'adama, and that's our primary. And if we're dipping it the first time, like Rambam says. Right. But we're only doing it the second time, by that time we already made hamosi, so it doesn't make a difference anymore.
Part of the 613 mitzvot? The see, Rambam puts it as part
Mizvah de B'rei Sofrim, is it one of the 613? I don't think so.
No.
No.